Hey friends, and thanks for checking out this last video in the series, The Pitfalls of Control. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. This is very helpful to us in expanding the reach of our message of the hope and healing that can be found in Christ. Okay, it's confession time. I put this one off until last. Procrastination is actually one of my struggles. Yes, there is a certain part of me that needs a certain amount of pressure or a deadline as motivation to start or complete a task. But that's not what I'm talking about today. Instead, I'm talking about when procrastination becomes an avoidance behavior. This happens when we try to avoid unpleasant feelings, tasks, or situations by controlling our timetable. So we put things off until we absolutely must face it. And ironically, this often makes the process much more difficult than if we had just faced the task or feeling sooner. We procrastinate because we ultimately fear failure or rejection. We avoid tasks and responsibilities that increase the likelihood of exposing our weaknesses, our fears, or insecurities. This is why procrastination, seemingly simple, is actually sinister in its connection with both people-pleasing and perfectionism. The fears and insecurities of procrastination are driven by the same desires lurking behind people-pleasing and perfectionism. In the end, it's all self-worship. And you might think, self-worship? Really? Okay, here's how. The three pitfalls of control are rooted in self-preservation. We strive to protect how people perceive us by avoidance, rooted in control. The avoidance of hurt, failure, and rejection. These are all driven by the desire to control the perception of others. This is precisely what displaces Jesus from the center of our lives. But when we look behind the mask of what is actually seated on the throne of our lives, we discover the self-worship that's been masquerading as control this whole time. Our desire to be perceived by others in a certain light puts ourselves at the center with everything else orbiting around how we want to be perceived. The truth is, we can trace all of our sin back to self-worship. Procrastination is no different, and neither is people-pleasing or perfectionism. So how do you practically deal with procrastination? Well, just like the others, you have to, number one, center your life on Jesus. And listen, folks, you have to fight this from becoming cliche in your life. Every day, you have to wake up and decide if it's going to be Jesus on the throne of your life or yourself. In centering your life on Jesus as it relates to procrastination, it's important to understand the biblical principles of, number one, settling matters quickly, number two, not delaying obedience, and number three, not letting the sun go down upon your anger. Jesus tells us in Matthew to be speedy in settling issues that we have with others. This is set against the backdrop of preparing ourselves for authentic worship. We cannot worship or give properly when we have unsettled issues with others. James reminds us that whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it is actually sinning. This includes delayed obedience. Paul teaches us in Ephesians 4 that we should not let the sun go down upon our anger. Avoiding biblical principles by putting them off, even when they're unpleasant, is a form of disobedience. There are numerous other passages that teach similar principles, and they give us a biblical foundation and impetus for appropriately dealing with unpleasant tasks, situations, and feelings. The second action item is move from abstract to concrete. Even large tasks are often harder in our own minds than in reality. This is, in turn, compounded by mounting pressure from other sources, which drive us deeper into procrastination. Much of this stress and pressure is contained inside our minds, swirling into chaos. To help manage these issues, we need to develop the practice of turning abstract thoughts and tasks into concrete and actionable items. We do this by verbalizing or writing out our thoughts, feelings, and especially tasks that are causing us to use avoidance behaviors. As we move from abstract to concrete, we can label, collate, and manage the stressors. For example, verbalizing or writing thoughts can help us identify lies, discover truth, and then adjust or dismiss accordingly. We adjust to the truth and we dismiss the lies. Abstract to concrete is especially helpful in managing tasks and responsibilities for the not so organized. Getting it out of your heads and onto physical form makes it easy for prioritization and action. It's also important to clarify that we have to learn to recognize that we can only control what is in our power to control. Often, our desire for control can easily turn to idolatry when we stress, worry, and we try to control things that can only be controlled by sovereign God. The third action item is create space space and order in your life. Everyone needs a measure of structure and order in their lives, whether they are the highly detailed type or you like to fly it loosely. The right balance of order and structure will allow you the space and freedom to manage your life more effectively. If you watch the video on perfectionism, you already know about examining your day hour by hour for the purpose of assessing your priorities by time spent. You can use the same principle and make a general schedule for the day to day. You can simply Google a daily schedule template and you can find dozens of free and printable schedules to help you do this. You choose your level of structure and you do the best that you can to stick to the plan. You have to build in rest time, reward time, and stopping time to help you keep your priorities balanced. By adding this level of structure to your life, you enact a much healthier form of procrastination. In fact, it's not really procrastination at all, it's simply motivation. A well-structured and ordered life will naturally create healthy motivation to complete tasks. By acknowledging procrastination for what it is, both self-worship and avoidance, you can effectively move into the direction of eliminating it from your life. But keep in mind that fixing behaviors is not enough. If you say things like, well, I'm just going to stop procrastinating, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You have to get to the heart of why you're procrastinating and address the root causes. I'm Shane with Anchor Christian Counseling. Thanks again for watching our series, The Pitfalls of Control.